Telling the Tale is the podcast where we're going to go through every single released Telltale episodic narrative adventure video game. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolf, and look out, it's your host, Dustin Jackson.
It's me, we're just a couple of blockheads talking about Minecraft, huh, Mitchell?
Well, speaking of blocks, yes, we are actually, yes, you did it. You introduced the show this time. You don't usually do that.
It's been a while since I've had a nice joke to lead with.
Yeah, well, let's not say that's what that was, but this week we'll be talking about Minecraft Story Mode Season 1, Episode 4, A Block and a Hard Place, released on December 22nd, 2015, so just over 7 years ago, however you want to feel about that timing. Directed by Graham Ross and Rebecca Gammon Arkovich, written by Brad Kane and Laura Jacquemin. Jacquemin, I think, is what we landed on last week. Designed by Brian Freyermuth, Luke Malding, and Grady Standard. Dustin.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, I pull those names from the credits at the end of the episodes.
Uh-huh.
But there are credits at the beginning of the episodes as well, in like the more stylized credit intro sequence.
Right.
Those are often wrong.
Awesome.
Well, or at the very least, incomplete and misleading, because it'll say a story by, and then in this case, I think it said Brad Kane and Brian Freyermuth. Now, Brad Kane is the lead writer, but Brian Freyermuth is the lead designer. So together they've said story by those two people. But
okay.
That both excludes the other writers and designers who are the leads, and conflates the two of them as doing the same job when they are doing different jobs, or at least formally credited as doing different jobs. I don't know, like, maybe the story creation process really was collaborative, and one of them was just more on the writing side, and one was just more on the design side. But yeah, I'm trying to go off the end of the episode as the more official credits to go on.
That's a good thing. That's what I would have done as well. That's crazy that are they trying to fool us with this? Get out of town.
Additionally, the credits at the end of the episode say directed by Graham Ross and Rebecca Gammon Arkovich. But if you watch the intro sequence, it just says episode directed by Graham Ross. Rebecca Gammon Arkovich is not mentioned.
Strange. That's why would they do that to us and try to make our job more difficult?
Yeah, it's definitely the person who's hurt by this the most is us, and definitely not Rebecca Gammon Arkovich, who's
right.
not credited in the episode that she helped direct. The weird thing about that is, like, sometimes writers who are not the lead writer will get excluded, which sucks, but I do understand why that happens at the very least. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't, but I understand how. With this, it's two directors. I don't know how one full director gets the shaft on that. How can that be?
That's kind of a big role to get left out of.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we're giving these people the attention they deserve.
Yeah, so here's the deal, Dustin.
Lay it on me.
I liked this episode.
I thought it was pretty good. Probably, it's definitely a huge step up, because stuff actually happens in it.
Well, stuff happens, but three words. Bold, structural choices.
Ooh.
I think this season has taken a bold structural choice that other Telltale games have not done up to this point.
Yeah, I was a very surprised little lad when we got to the end of this episode.
Yeah, so I guess let's not beat around the bush. Let's just say what happens. You do it in this episode. It should have happened next episode if we were going by any other Telltale game as a structural rubric. But in this episode, the entire plot resolves, and it's the end. And then it even says, the adventures of the New Order of the Stone, referring to our player's party as having inherited that title, continue in episode 5, as if episode 5 is the start of some new thing. That's so weird.
That's so. What makes it even weirder is we have 3 more episodes after that. This last one is still considered part of season 1, but then we have 3 more after that were included extra after the story.
Yeah, so I believe we talked about this in the last episode, but just as a refresher, when season 1 of Minecraft Story Mode came out, it was billed as 5 episodes like normal. No weird stuff. It's just a 5-episode season.
Yeah.
Which would have made this very strange if you were playing it month to month as it was coming out. When you got to episode 4 and you got to the end and you realized, oh, it just ended in episode 4. But there's another. What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what they do, but I'm just kind of thrown for a loop that, like, you would think this would be considered one of the bonus episodes.
Oh, totally, yeah. So, when episode 5 came out, I don't know what that episode is about yet. We haven't done it yet. We're going to play it next week.
Right.
When that episode came out, on that same day, Telltale announced, oh, actually, we're making 3 more episodes. They're going to come out in like half a year, and we're calling them the Adventure Pack. So that is presumably its own story as well. So what I'm guessing at this point is that episodes 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 are a story. And I looked up the Minecraft wiki because you were pulling off such good information from that wiki before. So I looked it up. Well, it doesn't reflect on you at all, but you did encourage me to check it out. The wiki called episode 4 the finale of the Witherstorm Arc. It's weird to have like an arc in one of these that is not along with the seasons. You would normally just have if it's a Witherstorm arc, you just say like, okay, well that's the first 5 episode season, and then the next is a different arc. That makes sense to do, but this is the Witherstorm arc. Huh.
Yeah, and boy, I'm very curious what happens in the next episode. I don't know if it's going to be like an epilogue to the Witherstorm arc we just did, or if it'll just be like its own standalone little story. I feel like if it's its own little standalone adventure, that boggles me even more. That
you're getting boggled over there?
I'm getting boggled. I'm going boggled out of my mind over here. That it's considered separate from those bonus 3, which I'm sure are their own story, so it makes sense. But still, I'm very confused on the way things are going to progress.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because I wasn't as sure that the 3 in the Adventure Pack are a different arc than episode 5. I was thinking maybe like the first 4 episodes of this total of 8 are one arc, and then maybe episode 5 is just episode 1 of the second arc of the season.
Oh, that could be. That would be a weird way to do it. Make the next 3 part of the Adventure Pack and episode 1 part of this. But I guess if they're all included in season 1, they could totally just do that.
Yeah, that would be such an interesting... I'm not even thinking about this from a story perspective, and I'm now just thinking about it from like a marketing perspective on the product that is this video game. If you bought the season pass and you had not yet bought the Adventure Pass, how would you feel if the story... You're still getting the 5 episodes you paid for. You're not getting any like stuff taken away or added or whatever. But based on what you got, if episode 5 is just the start of another 4-episode arc, how would you feel about that? That you bought this 5-episode thing and you did get an ending to like the big part of it, but then you also just get the beginning of the next part, and it doesn't like resolve on the end of what you paid for.
Man, I don't know how I would... My first thought is that I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like being it. So it gives you the first part of this story, but it kind of baits you into needing to buy the other ones. I don't know if I super like that. But you got
again,
what you paid
if that
for.
is what this is. It's
Yeah,
hard to completely confirm that.
Yeah, it's hypothetical, but like you did get 5 episodes that you paid for.
Yeah.
But it would seem a little on the scummy side to be like, "Hey, here's the first episode. Oh, but you got to buy the rest to continue."
Yeah, and it's interesting that they would like wait that much time after episode 5. So episode 5 came out, I think, I don't have the date in front of me, but I believe it's like January of 2016. And then on that day, they announced that the other 3 episodes at the end of the season in the adventure pack are happening. And then that was like another half a year after that. Why not just call that another season if it's a different story? Unless it is a continuation of episode 5. And maybe that's why they announced it on the day episode 5 came out.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a possible route to go. Oh man, we don't even know if this is the case, but now I'm thinking like I don't know if I would like if it is the case.
Well, from the cool thing about doing this podcast, one of the cool things about doing this podcast, the other being just hanging out with my good friend Dusty. But another good thing about doing this podcast is that any weird stuff like this it doesn't affect me. Like, I don't care. Because I'm just removed from this via time. Anything they do like this is only interesting to me.
Yeah,
and
we can
I don't
play
have to
them
worry about is this good for the people at the time, or is this good as a financial investment if you're buying the game? I don't care. I'm in 2023. The world's ending. It's different over here.
Yeah, we can just all play them all right now anyway. Who cares?
Yeah, like these pre-Trump era video game problems are trying to come at me from the past. Dude, I've seen COVID. I'm not going to get concerned about this.
Yeah, get out of town.
I will still think it's interesting and look at it as it's almost an inverse of what happened with Sam & Max Season 1, right? Because Sam & Max Season 1, you got to Episode 5, and then on the day Episode 5 came out, they announced the story doesn't end in Episode 5, and there's one more, and you got that one more for free.
Right.
So, like, the story was unexpectedly 1 episode longer than it was supposed to be. And in
it's
this,
like a little bonus.
Yeah. And in this, it was unexpectedly 1 episode shorter than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, but in both cases, you still get, like, 1 more episode after what you thought.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It does have me on the edge of my seat to find out how this plays out.
Yeah, so that's the structural aspect of this episode that's interesting, and I mean, I do genuinely think this is interesting. So this isn't as much of a slight as it probably is going to sound like it is, but that's probably the most interesting aspect of this episode.
Right. I mean, the rest you can kind of. I don't want to say you could predict exactly what happens, but it's more or less what you expect. You know, they take out the Witherstorm.
Yeah.
On a big adventure with friends.
So I wasn't expecting to be able to talk about this like a finale episode today. Especially because, you know, it's episode 4 of 5 or 8. Either way, it's not the finale. But it is, I guess. It's the finale of the story. So here we are. And we've developed a way to think about these Telltale finale episodes, which is that they have a tendency in this era to recontextualize a lot of what we thought was weird, or at the very least not very interesting about the narrative up to that point, and putting certain things, usually choices that the player made, under a bit of a microscope and watching those play out.
Yeah.
So I kind of think that happens in this a little bit. It's like the kids' version of that. Again, like everything else in Minecraft, it's attempting to be the kids' version of The Walking Dead. but it does sort of do that in a way that I don't think is, it's not that pithy. Like, it actually comes out in a couple ways.
Interesting. I didn't really get much of that. Tell me your thoughts, because to me, I just thought it was kind of. I mean, we do get some big revelations in this episode.
So, very high level outline of this episode. At the end of the last episode, their attempt to make the Formidabomb and blow up the Witherstorm just didn't work because the command block inside the Witherstorm that was operating the whole thing was too durable. It was not blown up by the Formidabomb.
Right.
So in this episode, early on, everyone's bummed out about it. Ivor comes around and says, hey, in my secret lab, I have a way to take care of the command block. I actually do. Trust me on this one. You should come to my lab. And then Jessie and a selection of some of her friends, not sure which ones, depending on certain choices you make, go to Ivor's lab. And while they're there, they find out the awful truth about the Order of the Stone, which is that they were all frauds the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
Now, did you see this, at that aspect of it coming, where the Order of the Stone were frauds?
Not specifically this. I mean, I did see, we got a taste of the Order of the Stone not being who you thought they were.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily think the whole thing was going to turn out, oh, this battle that everyone loves them for, oh yeah, it never, actually happened.
Yeah, so the way that we find out they're frauds is that, it's revealed by Ivor and Soren, when he sort of has to own up to it, that they used the command block. Specifically, Soren used the command block. The others didn't know that was happening. And they used the command block to just cheat through the actual game of Minecraft as if they're playing it like players. And they could do things like, instead of fighting that Ender Dragon, the big thing they're known for, slaying the Ender Dragon, they just sort of deleted it out of existence, and there was no struggle at all.
Boy, if only we all had command blocks, huh?
Yeah. So they do that. They find that out, and then Ivor says, now the way that we made this command block involved this book. We can use that book to make something of equal durability that could break the command block. So you make an enchanted weapon with that book, and then there's a big action sequence. Reuben dies.
Yeah, that's true.
Reuben the pig dies, and then you do end up hitting the command block enough times with the weapon. Somewhere along the way, Soren wusses out and completely just cowers away, and you don't see him anymore. But everyone else ends up in a big celebration, and you can choose whether or not to tell the public about the Order of the Stone being frauds.
Well, Mitchell, I think that was a little over a minute, but I think you did a good job of summing up the story.
Well, I had to give a sum up of the story because I wanted to I wanted to talk about the aspect of it that I think kind of fulfilled that pattern of recontextualizing the story up to this point, right, in a way that that sort of clears up things that we thought, or I mean, maybe we still do. I don't want to speak for you, and I don't want to say everything about the game files into this, but we thought was either weak storytelling or inconsistent storytelling. It seemed to have been paid attention by the writers, and they were noticing it, and maybe they were one step ahead of us a little bit in this game, as well as the previous Telltale games that we've covered. The what I'm referring to is, we've talked a lot actually about the Order of the Stone and how they are not that cool. So the game was always leading very transparently toward revealing that the Order of the Stone did Ivor dirty somehow. I was sure that at some point they were going to show us something happened to Ivor, right? And it was going to make him redeemable, or at the very least understandable. And I was bracing for that because, like, no matter what they did to Ivor, this guy's such a tool. This guy's just such a big dick. He's just uncool in every way.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him kind of coming around. I liked recontextualizing, like, why he's a dick. Like, not in a way that excuses his many fuck-ups, but in a way that it makes him at least a little bit more than just an asshole.
Yeah, but, like, the smaller things that we've... So that was always, like, the big thing, and that did come up, basically. The other 4 members of the Order of the Stone forced Ivor to keep quiet, and they like, bribed him to keep quiet about it.
Right.
And eventually Ivor was just not happy with that. But
yeah.
We also talked about, like, remember how we were talking about Edelgar's machines not being very cool?
Yeah.
That makes sense now. She was never good at it.
That's true. That's true. She had no cool machines. She was a fraud.
Yeah. And we were talking about how it was an unbalanced adventuring party because we had things like we had the demolitions expert and the redstone engineer sort of crossing over, like, okay, they both make, like, machines and stuff. And then Soren's thing is, oh, this guy? Well, he makes machines. Yeah, and then, like, Ivor's thing also sort of seems to be about machines a little bit. So it seemed like this really unbalanced adventuring party. And with this context, it makes a lot more sense of, like, oh, yeah, it was an unbalanced adventuring party. It did not work. It makes a lot more sense. Like, this was on purpose. It wasn't just, like, a weird thing that we were noticing. It just wasn't good in fiction.
Right. Yeah. They were never a group with skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it does all make sense now. It all comes together. That
kind of stuff, like, we were pointing out how, man, Magnus doesn't do much, but he's already shown, or sorry, Axel doesn't do much, but he's already shown more competence at what he's trying than Magnus ever did. And Olivia was the same way for Edelgard. And we were kind of like, we've said on this podcast that we found that to be a little weak when they're trying to make us think about these characters in certain ways. But no, it was just on purpose the whole time. They got us.
Yeah, they were just idiots who didn't do anything. So now these people who actually have to do something just immediately overshadowing them.
Yeah, they rare candied up to level 100, so they never got any EVs.
You know what? That's a perfect way. You're putting it in terms we can all understand.
Can I tell you something?
Yes, of course.
I thought of that sentence about 5 seconds before I said that sentence, and in the 4 seconds between that, I was so excited to say it. I was dude, I've solved podcasting. I just did the best. I made the best analogy that's ever happened.
It's all downhill from here, folks.
Yeah, I believe someone else might say steroids to make your body big, but then you don't have, like, that long-term muscle memory that keeps your body big. But that's probably just rare candy. That's, like, what rare candies are based on, I guess.
You just did it again. You just used the rare candy metaphor. How crazy is that you could knock it out twice?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably just keep doing it for the rest of the podcast, but we should talk about the video game at some point.
I guess, but here's a pat on the back for you.
Thanks. So, what do you want to talk about here? What do you want to get more into?
I mean, that's really the big part of it. That's the whole thing of the episode, is the Order of the Stone being frauds. I didn't even think about how it tied into everyone else just not being good up to this point. You've really blown the lid off this whole story.
I try. Yeah, it's I keep coming back to the fact that the story ended in episode 4 of 5 or 8. And that's just such a weird structure. That's so weird.
Yeah. Man, it's hard to really talk about much else. I mean we should, but like the big parts are so big that they kind of overshadow the just kind of typical end of the adventure stuff.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Kingdom Hearts 3 a little bit. You ever play Kingdom Hearts 3?
No, not yet. I haven't played any Kingdom Hearts besides Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories for the Game Boy Advance.
Well, this is maybe a small bit of a not structure spoiler for Kingdom Hearts 3. So I apologize for that, but it's been enough time, and frankly, it's not that big of a spoiler.
Okay.
The first maybe hour and a half to 2 hours of that game, it will technically not that game, but like of the disc that you get when you put in Kingdom Hearts 3 is Kingdom Hearts 2.9.
Oh.
And then Kingdom Hearts 3 starts about an hour and a half to 2 hours into the game.
Okay.
And it's just a weird thing. Like Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't start at it doesn't start at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3. And it reminded me of that structure weirdness a little bit.
Okay, I can't really back that up because, like I said, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3, but you can bet once I do, I'll come back to you, Mitchell Wolf, and I'll say, you were so right, it is like Minecraft story mode.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, can we make more games like that? Can we make stories? Is it cool to do so? Can we try more interesting things with the structure of stories in general? Like, can we make a video game that begins, has a middle, and ends at like the 20-hour mark and feels like a full game, but then if you just keep playing, there's a second completely different game after that with like different characters and stuff, and it's another like 10 hours, and it's billed as a 30-hour game, and you get 30 hours of it, but like the game that's marketed and advertised is only that first 20-hour section, and then that next 10 hours is like a different main character, different universe, maybe different genre entirely. And just, it's like, can we do that? We could try that.
We could try. I mean, there's no law against it. I mean, I'm sure that wouldn't sit well with some people. I'm sure there's some people out there who'd be like, "Oh, now the rest of the game is this. I really liked this."
Yeah.
So like, I feel like if you do that, there's a higher risk of less people being satisfied.
Yes,
it'd be interesting.
That's true. Well, okay. What's interesting about this season specifically is that this season was on Netflix. For like 4 years, right? It was right on Netflix. I really wanted to do the Netflix version of this game. Maybe I would play it and watch the Netflix version, or some combination of that. But They took it out before we got around to it.
Of all the luck.
It was on there for 4 years. It's a little bit on us for just not.
We should have started this podcast earlier.
Yeah, we should have started this podcast before the company fell. We would have had such a weird insight if we did that.
How imagine booting up the podcast and the episode starts with, "Well, we got some interesting news today."
Yeah, okay. Here's a question for you, Dustin. Imagine that we started the podcast in mid to late 2017, maybe.
Okay.
Which is about 4 years, 3.5 or 4 years before we actually started the podcast.
That's a long time.
Sort of. Imagine we did that, and then about a year into the podcast, we get the news. Maybe I don't know. Let's just say it's like 6 months before the news happens. At the 6-month mark, do we stop doing the podcast? Do we keep doing it? Would news like that change our determination?
That's such a... Oh man, that's a weird thing to think about. Partly because them closing down does not necessarily affect what we have to talk about on the show. There would still be like so many games to talk about at that point.
Yeah.
that like I would feel like we could still continue, but it would really put us in a weird space.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to think about because part of the reason we started the podcast was expressly because the company had fallen.
Yeah, exactly. Like without that, I don't know if either of us would have even had the idea to do a podcast on Telltale games.
Yeah,
Maybe.
especially because at least the ones that happened with the original company called Telltale, that's a fixed quantity.
Yeah.
There are 140 of those, and if you do that, you finish it. And we have, of course, gone on to do like slightly unrelated. Well, I mean, definitely related, but not in that exact category. Things by other developers who have Telltale links, like Return to Monkey Island. We've done New Tales from the Borderlands. We're gonna do The Expanse when it comes out. We're gonna do Wolf 2 when it comes out. But what existed before the company's fall was 138 actually, and then 2 more episodes of The Walking Dead came out afterward. Uh, Episodes that are, it's just a fixed quantity. That made the podcast a little easier for me to imagine doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it was still just we do the podcast, but also we need to reckon with another new episode coming out every month, I don't think we'd ever have gotten. I would have thought about it as something we would never have finished.
Right. Not only that, but like I've really enjoyed playing these games for the podcast, but back then I honestly was not that hot on Telltale myself. By that point I was not playing everything they put out. I was making sure to play Walking Dead when it came out. Kind of. I didn't even play the last season.
Yeah.
But like it's not like I was a Telltale super fan playing everything they put out. I was like, oh, Minecraft? No thanks. Game of Thrones? Get that out of here. I wouldn't have had any desire to do if I were to do a podcast, I would want to talk about games that like really were up there for me. So I can't imagine that thought even crossing at least my mind.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, especially because I was thinking about if I was playing Minecraft Story Mode Season 1 as it was happening, how would I feel about it ending in Episode 4? And the answer is I would not have known, because I would have played 1, maybe 2 episodes, and I can't imagine that I would go after that. I don't think it's something I would have stuck around with.
Yeah, same. Like, we voiced that we weren't super wild about the early episodes, but I do like. Well, there are times when there are times when I feel like doing this podcast is a little bit of a hindrance. Sometimes it feels more of an obligation to play these.
Oh yeah,
but I still have fun. I don't think I haven't opted out of this podcast yet. I'm having fun going through all of their stuff. And I'm glad that we played some things that I probably wouldn't have played otherwise, like Tales from the Borderlands. Before this podcast, I hadn't played Strong Bad for some ungodly reason.
I don't understand that about you. That just seems counter to your personality.
Yeah, don't I know it? Ain't that just a kick in the pants?
Yep. It's a kick in the hands.
Ain't that just a kick in the hands? This is a weird way to just say I've enjoyed doing this podcast, though.
Dustin, I'm glad, because I've always been very self-conscious about, like, man, I can't believe another human fell for my trap.
You're like the villain in a movie.
But I feel bad about it the whole time. Even my dastardly plans are self-aware enough to know that I should feel bad.
Why did I do such a fun plan? A fun, horrible plan.
What a fun, horrible hindrance to my life. No, I mean, the reason that this podcast got going, if you weren't there for the very beginning, I think we talked about it more in the beginning, was there was a no-clip documentary about Telltale in the final days, like right between episodes 2 and 3 of the final season of The Walking Dead.
Right.
Where they were interviewing a bunch of Telltale employees, and one of them was talking about, Yeah, episode 3 and 4 of The Walking Dead, I think it's, or the final season of The Walking Dead, I think it's some of the strongest stuff that we've ever done, some of the best writing we've ever pulled off, some of the coolest interactive narrative stuff. But every review, every article that was coming out about those games was only about how much the company Telltale sucked at that time because it was disintegrating and leaving all the people behind, which is like, yeah, I'm one of the people. I appreciate the visibility there, but the stuff's not being talked about.
Right.
It's just disappearing into the ether. Even as people are realizing it's disappearing into the ether, this is the conversation. So I wanted to make sure that we could do a podcast about every episode that those people actually put out, the work that they might or might not have believed in at the time on an individual level.
Right.
What was actually left behind from the big 14-year-long experiment called Telltale Games. And at this point, in episode 4 of season 1 of Minecraft, I don't really know how that narrative plays into our current understanding of what this podcast is about. But, I don't know. It still happens.
Yeah, I'm still having fun going through them.
Yeah.
For most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time for sure. We're talking about the structural weirdness of this season, and we're knowing that all the while they were working at an unsustainable rate, and they were losing money on most of their licenses. I don't know if Minecraft is one of the ones they lost money on, because I know Minecraft sold pretty well. But like with Batman and Guardians of the Galaxy, they definitely lost money on getting those licenses, those rights, in order to make the games.
Yeah, it's crazy since those are huge licenses. Like Minecraft, like the biggest game. You get the license for Minecraft, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, Batman. Game of Thrones was big at the time.
Oh yeah, at the time, Game of Thrones was enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Game of Thrones was just understood at the time as like, oh, this is kind of the B team putting this together, which is maybe why it wasn't looked at as deeply as some of the other Telltale games.
Right.
But they were just putting out stuff so fast. And it's weird that with how fast they were putting stuff out and how we know now that some of the employees like were unhappy with the way they were producing these seasons so quickly and so similarly to one another under a very specific CEO's direction in like this middle era right before the end. At the end they were saying it got better recently before they had to cancel it, but it was too late.
Yeah.
It's weird that during all that time, this weird structural stuff was just happening, and they were like, yeah, we could probably finish the story in 4 and then just do a weird one for number 5. It's weird.
Yeah, I guess it's cool. I guess it's neat. I like that they didn't feel the need to like drag this story out. And like it's not like they haven't done 4 episode seasons before. Like Wallace and Gromit was only 4 episodes. So it's I do think it is cool that they were able to finish the story they wanted to tell here, and then they just have like a whole bonus episode to do whatever with.
Yeah. So
like I don't know what it's gonna be. But
I bet it's about Soren because Soren ran away during the fight.
Oh, that's true.
And I bet
I
he's
forgot
gonna
he
be a
wasn't even
villain
there
now.
for the finale. That's interesting. I'm down for that. I guess he did just kind of disappear without a trace.
Yeah, everything that Ivor has done up to this point has not felt... I don't think it's been redeemed at all. They're just kind of cool with him because he helped out in the end.
Right.
But like he's still not taking responsibility for the Witherstorm. He's still just a dick about everything. And he was also keeping quiet about the Order of the Stone. He was just paid off for it, and he accepted the payoffs. Like he's shitty. But he has sidestepped his responsibility to be the villain. And now I think Soren is the villain, which is interesting because the most evil thing he's done is just cowardice. which kind of goes back to what we were talking about with episode 1. It was all about
with Lucas
bravery and cowardice. Yeah, with Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lucas also kind of steps up in this episode. Like, he kind of gets over his cowardice to go find his friends.
Yeah. He's That's definitely
neat.
He grew up. I think he grew up last episode even.
He had a journey.
He had a bit of a growth pattern.
Yeah, I guess I like that for him, even if that means, like, on the whole, he doesn't have a huge presence in the overall story.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Walking Dead, how in the first episode, oh shit, what's his name? It's not coming to me. The guy who's in your group and he leaves to get his friends.
Zombie. What? What's the question? Wait, what did you ask?
the guy in episode 1 of season 1 of The Walking Dead, who at the end of the episode goes to find his friends. It kind of reminded me of that, and his name is not coming to me.
Is it Glenn?
Glenn, that's it.
Well, yeah, because he's in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminded me of hitting those same notes with Lucas going out to find his friends. Like, it's the exact same thing, just for a story that little children can enjoy.
Yeah. With Lucas too, the 5 main, like, modern day characters in this group are Jesse, the protagonist, who is, I think, an analogy for Gabriel, who I guess fancied himself a warrior but was always lying about it. Jesse is actually doing that, and she's actually the brave leader of the group. And then Olivia is the Eligard, Axel's clearly the Magnus. And I think Lucas is the Soren, where Soren is defined by his cowardice. And it's interesting what they've done with cowardice, because I think you made the point with your nephew when we were talking about episode 1. You were maybe throwing your nephew a little bit under the bus, but I liked it because children need to fucking calm down.
I love my nephew, but he's at that point where he's, like, starting to realize, oh, I can be afraid of things.
Yeah, there are meek children and there are brazen children, and that's the two things you can be. So you pick one or the other.
Yeah, my niece is at the age where she's too young to know what being scared is.
Fun.
But, yeah.
Well, like we were talking about, is it that bad to be a coward, really? And I don't know, maybe, but
I guess it depends on the situation. Like, it's worse to be a coward when your friend is being taken by a Witherstorm and is being absorbed into God knows what.
Yeah,
it's worse to be a coward there than it is being afraid of, like, a monster on the TV.
Right. Like we were kind of thinking about cowardice in that first episode. I believe we had a conversation of, like, it's just not that bad to be a coward. It's you know, it shouldn't be equated with actual evil. It shouldn't be a character deficit. It's just like a weakness that you have to get past, like any other weakness you can have.
It's not like you're an awful, shitty person because you couldn't bring yourself to save someone.
Well, you say that, and I think we would have said that at the time, and I probably did agree with that at the time. But in this episode, the way that Soren specifically is a coward,
right,
actually does feel fairly villainous. And so they kind of brought that theme around, and they like early in the season, they do it with Lucas. Lucas is too much of a scaredy pants to fight when he needs to. He freezes up, but then he feels bad about it, and the game is kind of like throwing this little bit of, hey, how do you feel about that? Was that cool? Was that understandable, or was that not cool and you should have got over it? How do you feel, the player?
Right.
But in this episode, they're like, okay, I'm showing you the real version of this, and this is weak-willed personality. Just coward of a person, Soren, who we've liked up to this point. It's kind of a heel turn, but when he runs away from the fight at the very end, I believe it's Olivia, Jesse, and Soren, the 3 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When Soren runs away and just leaves you and Olivia. Oh, and maybe Axel.
Yeah, Axel was there.
Yeah, Axel was there. It feels quite bad. It feels it lends to why the other Order of the Stone would be so upset about the fact that he was cheating for them the whole time. He's just he's like a little slimy snake about it.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is...
Which, by the way, just real quick, great casting John Hodgman as the slimy snake coward. That's very good. He excels in the role.
I think... because when Lucas freezes up, it's not like he wants to let this monster get Petra, and it does feel different than Soren just being like, no, fuck this, see ya. Even though it's pretty much the same thing, both are too cowardly to do anything in that moment. But something about the way Lucas does it and the way Soren does it hits different to me.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the...
Yeah.
That's like the thesis of that point of the game, I think. Just showing that they're both afraid, but especially later on in the season, Lucas manages to figure out how to manage that fear. And Soren, Soren is worse than being overcome by fear. Soren does not try.
Yeah, he's just like, all right, well, see ya, I'm out of here. I don't care what happens to you guys.
Yeah, Soren's response to fear is selfish. It's only looking out for himself, not concerned with what his running away does for the rest of the party. He does not seem very guilty about it. The other Order of the Stone were lying about it and keeping it secret because they were thrust into the situation where Soren was lying for them. They didn't know he was until it became too late, and he just like blinked the Ender Dragon out of existence.
Yeah.
But Soren was lying about it just because he wanted to be seen as the hero and was too like selfish and cowardly to fight against his own desire to be seen that way, even if he makes no attempt to be that.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah, just a slimy heel turn from a new secondary villain in the game. I think Ivor still sucks shit. They haven't made me think he's like good all of a sudden.
Right.
He took the payout. He like they tried to pay him out and he took it. Why is that? Why is he getting revenge for that? You can just say no. I don't want the treasure.
Yeah, he's not above it.
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with them like being his friends or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he took the bribe, but like the important thing was he didn't want to like rat out everybody. He kind of wanted everyone else to come clean about it.
Yeah, but
he still took the bribe. It's still shitty, but
well, it's like if that's how he felt about it, why would he do this shit in the modern era and try to out Gabriel by setting a wither on him?
Yeah, he maybe took it a little too far.
Yeah, he maybe did it wrong.
Yeah, he probably should have thought, you know what, let's try a different strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here, an example that I wrote down of how Ivor sucks is when Ivor reveals something. I think it's that like he knows how to hurt the command block.
Mm-hmm.
When he reveals that Jesse has the option to say, Ivor, how could you keep this a secret this whole time? And Ivor says, keeping secrets is easy. Believe me. That's not an answer to that.
You're so right, Ivor. Keeping secrets is easy. I didn't think of it like that.
I didn't ask how hard it was for you to choose this thing to do. I asked, why did you... It's easy to do a lot of things I don't do. If I walked outside and I just like purposely smashed all of the snails in my backyard with my boots and you watched me do that, your response should be, why the fuck are you doing that? And I would say, it's easy.
It's it's so easy to stomp on snails.
You'd say, why are you doing that? And I would be like, I'm confused. Do you think this is hard? What do you...
I'm doing it because they can't do anything in return.
Yeah. So I do have 2 points about the episode outside of what we talked about so far that I thought was interesting. One was...
Okay.
If we want to go into these, it's a little more, if you know what I mean. I didn't say a word
I know
there.
what
I
you
just
mean.
sort of hummed, but you did seem to know what I meant. Point 1 is that they continued the pattern from what we were talking about last episode a little bit, with appealing to more things about the like the culture of the game more than the game itself. So I looked up what a command block is in Minecraft because I didn't know about this before.
Okay.
Do you know what it is?
I have no idea.
Command block lets you execute developer scripting and debug codes while you're playing the game. It is not available while you're playing the game normally. You need to be like in creator mode and turn on developer tools. It lets the player cheat. It's not like a real thing in Minecraft. It's just a block that lets you do cheaty kind of things while you're testing out the limits of what this system can do.
Right, and they brought it into this narrative.
Yeah, they brought it into the narrative in a cool
way. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Similarly to that, they go to the Farlands in this episode. Now, the Farlands it's a glitch. It's not like a canon realm of Minecraft in the same way that the Nether and the End are. This is
interesting.
This is a thing that happens when you go too far in a world, because the way that the random number generation works for making like the randomized world that you jump into when you start a new seed, the integer overflow happens if you get like the coordinates are too far away from where you start, and it'll take forever to go out there and actually walk there.
Right.
But if you use debug developer stuff like a command block to get there, you'll basically see this weird like wall of almost like an anthill looking thing, or I mean, it can look like whatever because it's glitching out. It's not supposed to work in that way.
Right.
So fans of the game that have seen this phenomenon happen started referring to it as the Farlands. It's like a fan term originally.
That's cool. I like them taking stuff like that and recontextualizing it for this world.
Yeah, totally, right?
Like, even as someone who's not, like, a huge Minecraft guy, that's just a cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's rad that they took it and they explained it in a way that is still pretty vague, like not to say what it is definitively, just to say like, yeah, this happens at the edge of our world for some reason. It's the wall of reality. Ivor is a weird beard who puts his laboratory in it just to make it safe, but like it's weird to be here. It's a weird nonsensical maze. Oh man, I just remembered the maze section in this episode.
How did you feel about this maze?
It was so boring.
I hate it. I hate this maze so much. I was talking to another friend who loves Minecraft story mode. He's been loving the episodes, but I was talking to him about it, and even he was like, yeah, that maze sucks.
Yeah, so I don't know if you need to do it, because I chose to do the maze versus there must be some other way, I think is the other option, the dialogue option.
So that's interesting. I chose to do it the other way.
Well, what happened for you?
So zombies come out of the maze and start attacking, and you climb up the vines on top of the maze.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think the others just still go through the maze, but...
well, yeah, so I chose to do the maze because I'm thinking, I like a maze. I'll do a maze.
I'll do a nice maze for you.
And I get like a few turns into the maze, and then zombies come out, and I need to climb up the vines on the side. So I think we just ended up at the exact same place.
Ain't that some shit?
Yeah.
So you also had to just climb across the top of the maze?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that turned into
Ugh.
its own maze, following the boundary of the maze. But it felt like took like 10 full minutes, which I
Right.
guess in the grand scheme is not that long while you're playing a video game. But nothing happens, and you walk so slow. And you're just walking across the boundary of this maze. Why did this occur? Why was this part of the video game?
I could not believe I was. What were they thinking? Like it's
Yeah.
not fun. It's annoying. It's so dark. It's hard to tell if you're going the right way, and there's no indication of where you're supposed to go. Jesse just says like, "Oh, maybe we'll just meet up at a spot where the paths meet up." And so I thought we were supposed to go where the light is, because you see a big light above Ivor's place. So I thought, okay, we're supposed to go to that light, and I guess there's like something there that we all meet up on. No, definitely not. Because it's just a dead end when you get over there.
Oh,
So
shoot.
I was just like, what the fuck? Where am I supposed to go? And it wasn't like that hard to figure out. Like eventually you just find the right path. But at the time I was like, this is gonna be a nightmare.
Oh, and in my experience, I was kind of just beelining it for the right path, so I didn't even have to figure out anything. It still just took that much time to walk it, and it was boring and nothing happened.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I just had no idea where I was supposed to go, if I was doing it right, if I was like even going in the right direction. Eventually like you kind of get some things you can look at as you're going, so
Yeah, I
by
think a
that point I
spider
was
crawls up at one point and you need to fight it, which
yeah. So by
only
that point I
happens
was like,
once.
yeah. By that point I was like, okay, well, I guess this must be the way to go. But before that, I was like, I got to the light and just no way to progress. I was like,
Cool.
oh shit, where am I supposed to go? And then I went backwards, like to the beginning. I was like, maybe I went the wrong way. And
Oh,
ooh, sorry about that.
you good, bud?
let me take a sip of water here.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll just continue to say, yeah, the maze was stupid and bad.
Yeah.
The Farlands existing in this concept, and the concept of a weird scientist who would like sequester his lab in the Farlands just because he wanted to do that, is pretty cool. It's like a cool idea to do that.
Yeah, that I like. That I thought was cool. It's just getting through the maze, but luckily the maze is like the only part of this episode I would say is like really shitty, and it's not like I was there for hours. So I got there, it sucked, and then I was out. So it was fine.
I looked up some history of the Farlands because as I expected, it turned out to be true that the Farlands looks very different depending on
Right.
what kind of computer you're playing on.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're on a 32-bit computer, the Farlands are going to look more fucked up than if you're on a
Ooh.
62-bit computer.
Okay.
Just because the integer overflow happens differently at different bit sizes.
Mm-hmm.
That the math doesn't get as bad that fast on a 62-bit computer.
Right.
The other thing that I looked up that I found was they kind of, sort of, removed it in the, not the latest, but like a few years ago version of Bedrock Minecraft.
Oh, so what is it now?
Well, it just keeps, instead of generating once, like the whole random seed that produces the world, and
Right.
you can walk far enough to get there, instead of that, it like keeps generating based on, I believe this is how it works. It keeps generating based on your travel position.
Oh.
So you can never get there.
Okay.
I guess
It just
the
generates
problem is
more and
still
more.
happening like out in the distance, but as far as you go, you'll never quite get there because it just keeps generating away from you.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I can't experience what my pal Jesse has experienced.
Well, you might be able to if you can warp there using a command
Oh.
block in creative mode.
Ooh.
But during like normal survival mode gameplay, you can't do it.
Okay. Well, it was a cool idea anyway, at least.
Yeah, it was neat. It was interesting.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. More stuff based on the culture around Minecraft. And I thought that's like if you need to build up a story out of really no narrative stuff at all, but you just have this mechanical stuff. Cool vibes going to what fans have found interesting. Because I think at this time, I just saw a little bit of this while I was looking up what the Farlands were after I played this episode. There's like some fan fiction about the Farlands. There's some interesting fan theories of like, well, how do we contextualize this in the lore? What do we say about the world of Minecraft that it has this aspect? And like different people have found different hypotheses for why it works the way it does in the fiction of the universe. So it's cool that Telltale was pulling on that rather than just trying to tell a story within the confines of the canon of Minecraft.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome way to make this world of Minecraft more interesting in a way that fits rather than just like making stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah, good on him.
Let's see. The other point was we got to talk about Ruben.
Yeah. Ruben fell.
Ruben fell from a great height while they were fighting inside the Wither, while Jesse was carving up the command block with their enchanted weapon. By the way, what weapon did he choose? Because you can choose any kind of like main Minecraft weapon to make a diamond version of it, and then enchant using that book, and then kill the command block. So which one do you choose?
So I chose the axe, but mainly because I didn't know there were other options. Like I just saw that was the recipe that came up first when I started crafting it. I was like, "Oh, axe, I guess that's the one I do." I didn't know there were other choices I had.
Yeah, if you use the R1 and L1 buttons, you can toggle through the recipes.
Yeah,
and see different recipe options.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that there were more beyond that one. I just saw that and I was like, oh, I guess that's the one I have, and that's the one I do. But, I didn't feel bad about it. An axe is just as good as the other ones.
Yeah, I bet it did not matter at all.
Basically exactly the same.
That said, there were some strange choices. So I think like the normal choices are the axe and the sword. On the wiki, I found that a vast majority... There were like 5 options, but still 60% of people chose the sword.
Right. I guess that makes sense.
Well, that diamond sword is like an iconic Minecraft look.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's
but I felt
the axe
good
and the
about
sword.
my axe.
What else? There's a pickaxe, which is not typically a weapon and is usually used for mining.
Yeah.
There is a axe, sword, pickaxe. There's a hoe.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which is a bit of a naughty word for Minecraft to say. Jesse just sort of the delivery that my version of Jesse gave that was kind of funny. Just the way she's like, oh, huh, like oh Jesus, Jesse,
Struck a chord.
You scared me.
I had my volume turned all the way up. You can't just do that.
You can't just say words at me like that. It's rude.
Oh my lordy begordy.
So there's that, and then there's a 5th one. I don't remember what it was. A shovel. It was a shovel.
Oh.
Yeah, so
like Shovel Knight.
Yeah, I picked the axe because I've just come off of a back-to-back playthrough of God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, and I was really feeling Kratos. I finished Ragnarok the night before I played this. Last night.
You've been kind of in an axey mood.
Yeah, especially a blue sort of cold axe, and the diamond makes it look blue. Yeah, I'm there for you, Kratos. I'm gonna further your journey into Minecraft.
Wow, what a good... This game really spoke to you.
Sort of. Yeah, and then you can also pick a different armor at Ivor's place. At the same time you're making your weapon, you can just choose a different armor, which I was very happy to do because I am not digging the Magnus armor that I had to be wearing for the last episode or so.
So you picked a new pair of armors?
Yeah, I picked the sort of lighter blue with some silver accents that was just to the right of center of the arrangement of armors. Did you pick a new armor?
Now, I did not pick new
okay.
armor. I stuck with Magnus's because I figured, well, he died. I guess.
Yeah, I just didn't like
well
that guy, so I didn't want
to. Yeah, I get that. But if you stick with the armor, Jesse says, well, Magnus died so I could have this armor, so...
Well, fuck me, I guess. I guess I did a rude thing.
That's fine. He was rude to you first.
Yeah.
And then he died for it.
Yeah, but his armor is like very green, so I really didn't want to be in it anymore. It was...
I get that.
It had I thought it was cool at first because of how boldly green it was and how I was just like a green little Loki guy.
Yeah, you were saying last episode, you were like, maybe I made the wrong choice.
Yeah, because it's just very green. It had distracted me. So as soon as I could change my clothes, I was glad to have been able to change my clothes.
Get me out of this shit right now. I don't care what armor you put me in.
Yeah, so it's interesting that they give you... Throughout this whole season, they've given you so many more aesthetic customization options.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning, letting you choose which presenting gender you are, which voice actor you get. And then in episode 3, you get either Magnus's or Edelgard's armor. And in this one, you can choose a new weapon and a new armor if you want. Cool stuff, but also sort of... It's sort of interesting, like, why? Like, that stuff is expensive to do from a game development standpoint. Anytime there's a character creator, that is a lot harder to do than just making a character bespoke and writing from their perspective and writing and like animating from knowing what they're going to look like and everything.
Right. I wonder if it was just to fit in with... how customizing a character in Minecraft. It's like, well, we can't have you like totally change how Jesse looks, but we'll give you some options to kind of let you a little bit.
Yeah, like I guess in that way Jesse does feel more like a main character in Minecraft than they could feel in other ways, but it kind of makes me think like, well, could Lee really have not been a woman, or did they just not think about that, or did they view making Lee a very specific person from the ground up important to creating that character, which I would agree that is the case. Like the more specific you make a character, the more you can write for them and actually write for them. But did they not want to do that in Minecraft? Was it not important to them to do that in Minecraft?
Maybe they just wanted to try something different. I mean, we already talked about before how Jesse is kind of a blank slate.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't make a super strong impression like Lee does. But, maybe they just wanted to give it a shot, give it a try.
Yeah, Jesse's definitely, I think, the most blank slate out of any Telltale character. Phone Bone would be the next most, but I think even Phone Bone has more of a personality.
Yeah, I remember Phone Bone, but just everything about Jesse is always just, hey guys, let's do this thing. I'll just say something to move this scene along, but doesn't give you any real insight to any actual opinions I might have.
Yeah, from what I can tell from the way you've been talking about it, it seems like a little bit of a waste of Patton Oswalt.
A little, yeah.
Because he's like a characterful voice, he's got a very specific personality in basically anything that he's in.
Yeah, I don't buy Jesse as someone who needed to have Patton Oswalt's voice, because he is just like some guy. He's just some like normal guy in your group is like, okay, let's go on this adventure.
Well, clearly Jesse didn't need to be Patton Oswalt because my Jesse isn't. And it's fine. Like, it just... at the beginning, I was saying that I felt like I was missing out on the Patton Oswalt performance because, like, that was, like, a thing I knew about this game because I chose Girl Jessie. But the more I'm playing through it, the more I realize how much they've written Jessie to not have specific, very baked-in characteristics. Maybe I actually like it more that we have this... or that I have a little bit more of a calmer... Not calmer, just like less extreme vocal performance because it actually fits more with what the writing is.
Right. More of a down-to-earth character with a more down-to-earth voice.
Yeah, but sorry, that was a bit of a distraction. We were talking about Ruben.
Oh yeah, I forgot the pig who dies.
Yeah, so he falls down from a great height and breaks every bone in his body. That's so sad. That's
true. He does do. You know what's funny to me? So when Jesse falls out of the Witherstorm, Jesse ends up falling into like a pool of water.
Yeah.
And I was just imagining Ruben saying, "Oh, I should have done that."
Well, you can't in real life, like air strafe.
Right.
But this is not real life, so Ruben should have tried.
Yeah, he really should have attempted to just fall into that water like Jesse did.
Yeah. Ruben, so he fell from a great height. They have this very sad music going on where normally the music has been it's what you would expect from Minecraft. It raises in anxiety and tone with the action, but it is very atmospheric. I don't think I could hum a specific Minecraft story mode song.
Right. But it is nice, though.
Yeah, it gets really sad, and then... I laughed so hard. I felt bad. Ruben slowly closes his eyes after, like, trying to stand up and then just falling over again and whimpering and crying. And just falls to the ground, and everyone knows what's happening. Ruben is dying. And then Ruben just poofs out of existence, and then there's some pork left there. Dude, hilarious. I had to pause the game. I was laughing too hard. That shit is so funny.
And it might be the one, it's like the one time in this whole season that I've actually laughed, like, hard.
I've laughed harder at that than maybe anything else in a Telltale game up to this point.
Wow.
The physical comedy on it is so funny, and clearly it's intentionally funny. I'm not going to say it's like they don't know what they're doing. They definitely knew what they were doing, but the music doesn't let up at all. The characters are still so sad. The music is still so sad. In fact, it even raises with melodramatic tone as Ruben dies and turns into the pork, and then Jesse just picks up the pork and looks at it and starts, like, saying stuff to the pork, like just it's just like a slice of pork.
Right. I've thought about jokes like this and how a joke like this only works since it's played totally straight.
Yeah.
Like, the joke would be completely ruined if, like, once Ruben turns into pork, then there's like a record scratch or something. One of the characters goes, well, that just happened.
Yeah.
Like,
once
they
Axel
point
was
out,
like, well, I guess I better get a hot plate.
That sucks.
Yeah. No, they were all still sad about it. They buried the pork. They made a mausoleum to Ruben, like a big tomb thing. And, and that slice of pork is buried underground at his grave.
Yeah, that's the only way this joke works, and I'm glad that they knew that.
Yeah, you know what? If this entire Witherstorm arc of Minecraft story mode was really just to get that moment in there, just to get that Ruben turning into a slice of pork moment, good on him.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Good use of time. People paid for it. Yeah. So that's Minecraft Story Mode Season 1, Episode 4, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think we left anything out. We hit the important parts. Petra really takes a back seat in this episode.
If you,
at least from the choice
her,
I made. I chose to let her stay in the cave.
Yeah, I did too. I bet she doesn't, though. I bet you could bring her with you.
You can say, like, no, we need you with us.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's a case like the maze where, like, she takes a few steps out and then she's like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to hang back here.
Yeah, maybe she gets mad at you. It's like, stop making me try.
Yeah, I just wanted to lie down. I wanted you to just say that I should stay here.
Yeah, I mean, she takes a back seat. Lucas takes a back seat until he comes back with his friends in the end, and sort of. Yeah.
I feel like Petra could have used one last cool scene like Lucas got.
Well,
like,
maybe she really has one that we didn't see. I don't know.
That's true. That's very true. It's possible that she has one if you bring her.
We made a choice.
I felt like it was best for her to just hang back. But
yeah.
maybe the story suffered because of my actions.
Well, what's continually weird to think about is that there is one more episode, and then also 3 more episodes, and then also 5 more episodes after that.
Oh my god, that's a lot of Minecraft.
Yeah, there is exactly 1 + 3 + 5 more. There's 9 more episodes of Minecraft Story Mode. We're just going to do the next, 4, right?
Yeah, right. I couldn't possibly jump right into Season 2.
Well, no, of course, because we're not there yet. But I was also thinking, like, well, if this was the end of a story, should we cut this up and then, like, go do another thing? But,
I don't know. That would be weird. I feel like that would be a weird way, because it is still technically Season 1.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why don't we at least do this next episode, then we'll see how we feel.
Yeah, like, if this next episode is the start of something that goes on for 3 more episodes, then yeah, we'll just do all 8 at once.
Yeah, but I don't mind waiting to do the adventure pack if that's totally its own thing.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what it is, because before playing this episode for today's podcast, I was kind of thinking, like, man, I just wish we... I want to break it up, because I was so not feeling episode 3 and 2. I mean,
right.
2 is bad. But,
yeah.
And I was losing a little bit of the passion. I'll tell you that.
You were running out of steam.
But this episode, and it's weird stuff that it tried, has gotten me at the very least interested to see. Okay, like, what does an episode 5 of a 5-episode season that ended in episode 4 look like? So I'm at the very least curious to keep going.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I'm interested in seeing how it all plays out, but that's where I'm at right now. If the next episode is just a standalone, then maybe we can break it up and wait a little bit to do the adventure pack. If not, then I guess we'll just go through them all.
Yeah, I mean, like, the alternative to just going right through the adventure pack, and this might change how you feel about it, is we start Game of Thrones, or we do the 4th CSI. Which I think are things you don't want to do. So we'll see how we feel about it.
Yeah, we'll come back here after the next episode. The audience will find out, and we'll find out. I'm excited to see what we do.
I like Game of Thrones. I'm just saying that. I like that show.
It's not my thing, but, neither was Walking Dead when I played Walking Dead, and I loved it.
Well, we'll see. Let's get into our segments.
I would love to get into our segments. Mitchell, who is your weekly guy this week?
Ooh, okay. It's definitely Soren. I love that little coward.
What a loser.
Yeah, I love fighting Telltale's cowards. And John Hodgman, I think, just nails this like wimpy weakling kind of guy a lot.
Mhm.
Especially given I gave it to Soren last week too. I'm not ashamed to double up on it.
I'm not ashamed.
He's just a weird guy after being alone in the end for however long he's been doing that shit.
Do you like his mustache?
I love his strange facial hair. Yeah. I think about it a lot when I look at his face. Because that's what it is to look at something.
That is where the mustache lays its roots.
Yeah. Who's yours?
This is so hard. I don't necessarily feel like anyone brings it more than anyone else in this episode. I don't think anyone's like doing a bad job in this episode. But it's really hard to pick. I think I might actually go with Olivia. And this is a weird pick.
No, I kind of feel that.
I just really liked that scene that she and Jesse had when they're trying to fix up that...
They call it a barge.
Yeah, the barge.
It's not a barge, though. It's like a weird combination of jelly blocks and mine carts that just crawl through the air. I don't understand how this works, but I bet it works in Minecraft.
Yeah, me neither. But, like I said in this episode, I don't feel particularly super strong about anyone in particular, but Olivia, I just liked that scene with her and Jesse kind of getting her feelings out there before we got there. And I like that she was there with you the whole time. I don't know how strongly I feel about this pick, but I felt like she did a pretty good job.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I almost said Ivor just because I kind of liked his turn, like the twist with him, but he is still shitty. You're right. I
like Soren's dark turn a lot more than Ivor's light turn.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I'm giving it to Soren. But yeah, I think Olivia has a great moment in this episode.
Yeah, I guess that's just what it comes down to, is she gets that one great moment, so I'll give it to her.
Dustin, what's your choice cut?
Choice cut, I think, is whether or not to have Gabriel tell the truth about the order, because I did kind of think about it for a little bit. I do think it's good to come clean with everybody, but there was a point where I was thinking, well, who really cares at the end of the day? The day is saved here now. Like, what difference will it make telling everyone that these guys are frauds? I mean, they did kind of help us save the day here in a way. That doesn't make them the heroes everyone thought they were. But at this point in time, I didn't know how important that was.
Yeah, there was that Simpsons episode with, like, Lisa finding out the dark secrets of the guy who founded Springfield.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how that episode ended. Did it end with her saying, like, maybe people don't need to know or something?
It's been a long time. I can't for the life of me remember, which sucks because I enjoy The Simpsons.
Yeah, I was trying to use that example that I barely remembered instead of the Rick and Morty example I do remember.
Right.
Where they do the same thing, and it turns out that the Jelly Bean King is a rapist, and, Rick and Morty, it's got to be pretty highbrow.
It's got some baggage.
But in that one, they do decide, no, we can't. The image of what he was is more important than what he actually did, and whatever. I never jived with that. I always wanted, like, yeah, just if you feel guilty about cheating, then yeah, just tell people. It's weird that you haven't.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that it kind of gives you the choice.
Yeah,
and I did decide that you probably should tell them. I mean, we're all here.
Yeah, in this reveal, I've only thought about this right now. it reflects
Mhm.
really, really poorly on Magnus and Ellegaard. Because Gabriel's been like out of the equation for most of the time, and Soren
Right.
is like selfish in keeping the secret, and Ivor's trying to reveal the secret. Magnus and Ellegaard are just like believing their own gas on it. Like Ellegaard is letting the people think it like, yeah, I am the best engineer in the world.
I'm awesome.
Yeah, she's like telling Olivia she's not good at it too. Like, you aren't actually good. You forgot? Did you forget that you cheated?
Well, maybe in the time after they like actually became, because we saw like the stuff she was building. Although I guess we talked about like, well, it doesn't look her machines aren't that cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really do anything. And then like even the people that have idolized her make machines that further don't do anything. Like the bovine disco. Good
Hey,
stuff
well,
there.
I forgot that we saw that guy again at the end. He was at the ceremony.
Yeah. Disco guy was there. I love that.
Yeah, if he had said anything, he would have been the weekly guy, but he didn't. He decided to let someone else take the spotlight.
Yeah, I chose also to tell the people just because it's just not important to keep this a secret. I think it's weird that they feel so guilty for cheating, is my take. Because, like, I guess they're pulling that from the player end of it. Like, if you're a player and you do this, then yeah, you're basically just cheating. But if there was, like, a reason that the Order of the Stone had to kill the Ender Dragon to, like, save people or stop it rioting or whatever it's doing, like, the reason they killed the Ender Dragon, if there was one, why would anyone care how they do it? Like, if they do it in a way that's easy, then, like, neat. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, they still got rid of the Ender Dragon.
Yeah, unless they were just hunting.
I thought that's... Oh, yeah, like it just wasn't important, but they built it up like it was this huge feat they did.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess they never really explain this, but they don't say whether or not it was like a hunting triumph or if they were saving people and the Ender Dragon was attacking people. I kind of thought it was that second one. Like, there was a reason they had to kill the Ender Dragon. But maybe if them cheating was such a big deal, maybe it's just like, oh, the Ender Dragon was just minding its own business and they used cheat codes on it. And that is shameful, somewhat. I understand that more.
Yeah, it's not really clear. I was thinking that they killed it for a reason, like it was eating people. But they don't really say. So if it's just that, if it's just they said, hey, we're going to go after the Ender Dragon, and then we did. It was great. It was this crazy battle. Just for the glory, then yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you know what? Something I was thinking. When they destroyed the command block, I was thinking that, this is only episode 4. Surely something else is going to happen after. I was thinking like the Ender Dragon was going to come back once it was destroyed, and then you would need to take it out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe that does happen.
Yeah, maybe that's in the next episode.
Yeah.
That's where I was thinking they were going to go, but if that is where they go, they're not, they didn't like leave it on a cliffhanger or anything, which is interesting. You'd think that would be a good way to get people like hyped up for the next episode.
They just did a splash screen and said, the adventures of the new Order of the Stone continue in episode 5. There's every episode before this has had a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my choice cut is actually not that. Mine is the aesthetic stuff. I thought it was cool that they gave you so many
with the armor and stuff.
Yeah, the weapon and the armor. There were so many options to just like change how you look when you're taking down this big enemy.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I kind of still don't. I'll be honest. I don't fully get it. Like, why this was a priority in this game and then not other games. And even so, maybe like they gave a lot of different options for skins. I guess maybe just because it's easy, because they're all just textures. Yeah,
with the Minecraft style. Maybe it's just something that they can't really do in their other games because it takes so much more work. And so here they're like, oh, because it's Minecraft, we can do something like this.
Yeah, but the weapons thing, it probably requires... I might have to look it up on YouTube or something, but it probably requires different animations if you're using an axe or if you're using the hoe or the shovel.
Right.
So that would be intensive. And well, I mean, it's not like so much. It really only matters for those 3 moments in which you actually hit the command block with the thing. But
yeah. Again, maybe it's just the style makes it like a lot easier to do these sorts of animations with. A similar situation. Have you ever heard of the Adult Swim show 12 Ounce Mouse?
No.
That's an Adult Swim show with a style that's like a step above stick figures.
Oh, okay.
But because of that, I remember listening to an interview with someone who worked on that show. He said, because the art style was so simple, we were allowed to get like really cinematic shots and do a lot more than we could do with like more detailed designs. So maybe it's just a situation like that.
That's pretty cool. I like that idea. I should check that out.
Yeah.
Do you recommend the show?
I think it's good. It's not one of the more popular Adult Swim shows just because a lot of people can't get past the style. It's very weird. It's not for everybody. I personally think it's fun.
Sounds cool. I'll have to look at it after this.
Yeah.
What's your golden moment? Mine is pork.
You know what? I have to give it to pork, but
Yeah.
that's not what that's not what I had written down.
Okay.
But how can it be anything else other than that?
Well,
so
what did
I
you have
agree
written
with
down?
you. I just liked the puzzles in Ivor's special house.
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk about that.
Just because like it's so rare to get like actual puzzles out of this era of Telltale games.
Yeah, and
I
the
was like,
puzzles
oh.
are kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't like super difficult. They were pretty easy to grasp what you had to do. But still, I was like, oh, this is something I actually have to think about. I don't remember the last time in one of these types of games I've had to like actually do a puzzle.
Yeah, basically what it comes down to, because we haven't mentioned it up to this point, there's a few rooms in Ivor's house that you need to go through, and in 2 of them, there are mementos and recreations of things that the Order of the Stone was, at the very least, because this is revealed to... This is before the big reveal that they were frauds. That they were said to have done. So, in the first room, it's like 5 treasures that they got from different times, and if you looked at the treasure, Soren's with you, and he'll tell you about the story of how they got the treasure. And then you need to put them in the order in which you did them. And then in the second room, it's a recreation of the Ender Dragon moment. And you need to go step by step and press buttons corresponding to like how they took down the Ender Dragon. But in both those cases, they didn't actually do those things. So it's cool that it's recontextualized after the fact of, oh, Ivor wasn't just remembering the time that he spent with the Order of the Stone when making these puzzles. He was like abusing the lies that they had to make when making these puzzles. Mm-hmm. And it's a cool little recontextualization of like, oh, he would do that for this reason, which makes sense. Like, oh, no, he would do this for a completely different but still valid reason. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Soren has to stick to those stories.
Yeah, like the reason Jesse is able to go through it is because Ivor is totally convinced that Soren will continue to lie about it.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
By the way, there's a around that moment in the Farlands, like Ivor guides you to the Farlands, and then for the first bit of it until like you finally figure it out, he's not there anymore, and I don't remember when he left.
It's when the witches are attacking. He stays to hold the witches back.
Oh, I must have missed that.
You know what's... Well, did you choose to get the cake in the witches' cabin?
No. But the witches still attacked.
Yeah, the witches still attack. So I was thinking, well, we should have just... You know what's something I totally forgot about? So you find potatoes in that swamp to keep people fed. You never use those potatoes.
I gave them to the people.
Oh, did you? I never had the opportunity to give them to the people.
Yeah.
But like throughout the episode, they're like, well, at least we have potatoes. We're good. We'll have potatoes to eat. And then it just never comes up.
Yeah. Well, that's Telltale.
At least we had them.
I am glad that this game happened.
Yeah.
If Minecraft didn't exist and this was just a funky aesthetic choice for this kind of game, that would be so crazy.
That would be weird. They just decided, let's go for this weird cuboid look.
Yeah, I would love another Telltale game that similarly just has as bold of an aesthetic choice as this, but just it's just completely original. And people
That'd
just
be
look
neat.
like weird things for some reason, but it's still voice acted and written as if they are people as people.
Yeah, we were talking about it before, how we kind of wished how Telltale was able to do their own unique IP rather than licenses all the time. That'd be neat. That'd be neat to do something like that. Just something wholly original, but with a crazy art style.
Well, I guess that's a little bit of Nelson Tethers, but Nelson Tethers doesn't... It's like 2 games, and it's not in the full style. They're a bit more... They feel a bit more budgety.
Yeah. You know what? I missed those games. I know we were kind of down on the second one, but I liked kind of being in that world and interacting with the characters.
Oh,
It had a nice atmosphere to it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That Grickle aesthetic is great.
Yeah, even if, it kind of built up to something that we didn't really like. In general, I really liked those games.
Oh, I should pull this up because it was mentioned on Graham. I'm following Annabelle on Twitter because
I think I am too.
Just I like that art style. He posts a lot of art.
Right.
Recently, he posted someone in a documentary or a showcase or something had a hidden person. Yeah, it's Tim Schafer.
Yeah, are you talking about the Psychonauts 2 documentary?
Yeah, he's got a hidden person statue on his desk behind a trophy.
Yeah, I saw that too. I just recently watched through it all and I saw him.
That's so strange because like Tim Schafer was not involved in Nelson Tethers at all, right?
Right, but are the hidden people like I don't know if they're like specifically for that. Like didn't he do like comics with them too?
I think they are specifically for it, but like they are a recurring element in the Grickle comics as well.
Exactly.
Well,
so I could see him. I could just see him being a fan of Graham Annabelle's stuff and having one.
I mean, even then though, like looking at all the Grickle stuff, I think that you need to have played Nelson Tethers to like the hidden people in a way enough to get a full statue of a hidden person to put on your desk.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I could see him playing those.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the same shelf as like I think his BAFTA and a mask of Grim Fandango from like
Grim
that's
Fandango.
a game he wrote.
Yeah, and it turns out the hidden people are on equal footing.
And then so Graham Annabelle he tweeted that when he saw it, and then Tim Schafer responded to it, and he said, "That's just my work hidden person. Our gnome one or our home gnome is a bit more shy." And they have he's got a second one in his house that he puts right behind a dresser.
It wasn't enough to just have the one. He has 2 of them.
Yeah, he really likes them. He really likes those little hidden people.
I wouldn't mind having one of those.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're like expensive or if you can even get one now, but
I think they were from a Kickstarter that Annabelle did like at one point a while ago.
Okay. That would be something I'd like to have, kind of a sentimental thing I can connect to the podcast in a way.
You can just ask Tim Schafer. Maybe he can give you his.
Yo, Tim, I hear you got 2 of them.
Yeah, if you just tell him how much you like Psychonauts, he'll probably just give it to you.
Give me that one near the BAFTA. I want the BAFTA one.
Yeah, give me the BAFTA also, because I like the way it's hiding behind the BAFTA.
I want to read...
Oh, Well, you're
Sorry,
dying, so we need to end the
sorry,
episode.
I'm on the tail end of this cold. I feel bad. I feel like I have colds very often when recording these. I hope everyone knows I'm not dying. It's because I have disgusting niece and nephew in my family who have a lot of germs.
Well, don't die, Dustin. Just be very nice and have a great summer.
Why, did you just combine both of them?
I try my best.
Holy shit.